I don't think I've seen your hair so long.
Yeah, COVID's done that to me.
Well, at least you can still wear a face respirator at work, right?
Yep, my seal is perfect.
All right.
Hey, Barry.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Louisa.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Perry.
Hello.
I'm speaking to the people who have faith. Bill is there, but I can't see him.
Oh, what'd you say, Luis?
I see you're there, but there
Hello,
you
Lisa.
Oh, there's Bill. There you go.
You look very relaxed. Have you been on vacation?
Yes and no. I mean, I've been working, but I did take a couple days off. I've been alternating between like the Cape and Vermont.
Oh, yeah, you've got that look.
Yeah. But no, the middle of the week's tough. It was tough to work today with a Bruins game on at 11 o'clock too.
Oh, wow.
Any of you guys watch it?
Oh, yeah, that was an awesome game.
You know what? You could feel them ready to break out. You know, I mean, they played. You know, they didn't, their first game in the round robin was terrible, and they progressively got better. And I mean, that was. I mean, it felt like playoff hockey today. You know, it really was. I mean, you think about the number of teams that are playing overtime, and the whole reason the Bruins had to play today was because of the 4 overtimes last night.
Yeah,
Well,
it was
that's
pumped
right.
up
Did they get
last
the
night.
5?
That was a big letdown when they canceled the game.
Yeah, I know it. This is where with COVID, you can work and have things like that on in the background.
Yeah, I'm still working from home for the foreseeable future, so.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I thought your buddy, Mr. Lehman, was going to be retiring.
I believe COVID slowed that down.
Yeah, I think you're
is
right.
what my understanding is.
Yeah, I still get emails from him. He's still working away.
I think next year is the plan now.
Yeah.
He's got to pay for his son's wedding in the fall, so. Or next year, I don't know.
Open bar?
Well, crazy. It's an open bar? Yeah, because you can get up off a table right now to go to the bar. I think that's the rules now. You have to stay at the table the whole time.
Hey, Brad.
I
I got to figure out how to change my name back because I was in a video chat with a bunch of friends' family. There we go. I found it.
So I noticed that did that for me because I at work things, I never go. I mean, I'm a Billy socially and outside of work, but I think I've been on a Zoom session before, and that's where it must keep your name.
Well, if
Yeah.
you want to change it, it's the 3 little dots when you hover over your own picture.
Yeah.
Pretty informal these days.
You're a Zoom expert, Brad.
I spent a while looking around for the button in the right place, and it was not where I expected it to be. So
What I like with Microsoft Teams is you can actually kind of make your own background. It's kind of cool.
you can do that on Zoom too if you download the actual program, but it loads it out of your website,
Oh,
web
okay.
page,
Gotcha.
browser. So I haven't figured out how to do that one yet. I've been trying to get it to download to my computer, and I screwed it up a couple of times, and I gave up.
Got a quorum? We've just got 2 minutes to go here.
First, I said it's a long agenda. Then I realized a few of these things can be bundled together.
Right. There's a lot of, in fact, I don't think we have any. We have maybe one notice of intent.
Right.
So we'll see. Hey, Weston.
Hi guys,
Hello.
how's everybody doing?
Right?
Nice. It's been some time.
I
Yeah,
know.
no, the month in between is like, no, it's longer than you think it's gonna be.
Yeah, it really is.
I got a puppy with a couple months ago, so that's been my whole life for the last 2 months. So
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Good time for it.
yeah, not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
What kind of dog?
it's a Woodle, a Wheaten Terrier Poodle mix.
No way. Nice.
Yeah. So it looks like a little teddy bear.
I had a Wheaten Terrier growing up. They're great dogs.
He has the coat of a Wheaten, and then kind of looks like a little like a poodle. So.
Oh, nice. My dog is looking at me and she's waiting for dinner. But it's defrosting, so you have to wait some more.
Animals get used to being home. You may never have to go back to work.
Yeah, seriously.
I've been making a point to leave for a little bit every day, just so that they don't get too used to being around all the time.
You know, otherwise they cry. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Fran, are you ready?
Hi, I'm here and I'm ready to go whenever you guys are.
Great.
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll call a meeting to order. This is the August 12th, 2020 meeting of
Robert, do you mind putting yourself on mute? Thank you.
this is the August 12th, 2020 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. We're meeting via Zoom this evening, and we'll call the meeting to order and start the meeting with continued business of an enforcement order for Lionel Galvez at 5 Billing Street. However, we also have a new business from Lionel Galvez, and we'll kind of package those two together. I think we can do that. We kept the enforcement order open because there was some new activity on the site that we wanted to have some paperwork submitted for, and that was an RDA for a pool. And it doesn't say that on the agenda, but I think we're all set with the enforcement order, but we kept the enforcement order open while we debated the pool. So is Mr. Galvez with us tonight? Or somebody representing Mr. Galvez? Okay, I think we can discuss this without someone being tuned in. We had a conversation last time quite extensively with Mr. Galvez. We did ask him to put it in RDA for the pool. We have the paperwork now that shows the pool being just look here, 20 feet from the edge of wetland, but the house itself is only 25 feet from the edge of wetland. So we have a very tight lot. And it's funny, this is the first case that I ever was involved with when I joined the Conservation Commission eons ago. And I remember going out there, and we didn't think it was a good site for a house, and it was very tight, and the wetland was right there. And sooner or later, all of these sites that are very marginal come back to visit you again, it seems, unfortunately. So we do have the pool there. It's either partially or fully constructed already. I have driven by a couple times and seen it there. The site itself is such that I'm wondering if there's really any good spot on that site for the pool. The staff thought it could be moved perhaps 10 feet or so in one direction to get it a little further from the wetland, but then you've still got the house, the deck, and everything else in the vicinity. It's a strange wetland in that it's not really connected to too much as far as, you know, a stream or something like that. I'm wondering what your feeling is. My feeling is 10 feet isn't going to really make that much difference. It is an above ground pool. So, you know, probably a flood, should it happen, will completely wreck it and maybe wash it away. I don't know, but I'm not of the opinion that moving it a short amount would buy us much. I'd like to hear what others think.
I would certainly agree with the comments from Jared that said that I think it was number 4 down here that said that wait, no, where was it? Because of the order of conditions that was granted in the first place that allowed this building to be constructed where it is, that, you know, he doesn't have much in the way of a backyard that is usable for this use, and he used the words that it would seem unfair. You know, I can mimic that sentiment. He's certainly done a lot of work to get us to this point here. So I know that it started wrong, but this is an unusual site, so I would certainly support allowing this to move forward.
Anyone else comments?
I would agree with Brad, and you know, I don't want to be unfair to this homeowner, and I really wouldn't worry about the pool so much being there as the way that it was drained in the fall. You know, maybe that's something that we might have to keep an eye on. I'm not sure, just based on the history of this
We could put something in
address.
the RDA to address that.
I mean, I think the location it is what it is. It's a small area that's right next to the wetland. So, you know, but definitely the drainage that will have to happen before it freezes over. You know, that's something to think about.
Good point.
I would kind of echo the comments that were just made. And also, I think the argument could be made that unlike a permanent structure, I mean, especially if they're looking to drain the pool seasonally, you know, I mean, ideally you'd like to be outside 25 feet, but I think this is about as optimal a location as you can get it. And one could argue that it's a temporary structure versus a permanent, you know, structure. And therefore maybe we can give a little bit of latitude, especially in light of the circumstance of how this lot was developed.
I hesitate to define a pool as a temporary structure for the purpose of this lot. We should specify that our decision is based on the unusual nature of this lot itself.
Well, how do we reconcile? I mean, I don't disagree with that. I'm just trying to think, how do we reconcile with a no build zone within 25 feet? You know, I mean, I think we just need to be consistent with whatever rationale we use. I'm open to suggestions, but I just want us to think ahead about no build zone means no build zone. And if we're given an exemption here, you know, what's the rationale? And it's certainly a unique circumstance, but let's try and kind of coalesce around a specific argument, you know.
That's fair. Jared noted that the staircase is already within the 25-foot no build zone. So
Okay.
Another structure with less impact than a footing perhaps could be allowed in an area where it's already, I don't know.
No, I like that thinking, and maybe Brad, that's it gives flexibility in this case without opening us up to others trying to use this unique circumstance as an opportunity to put in a pool in an area less than 25 feet away from a wetland. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, there's no perfect answer or easy fit. I think we're trying to thread a needle here.
Make it specific enough that another site won't conform to our judgment. Is that the goal?
Anyone else have a concern or something they'd like to tack on to this RDA? Should we approve it? And we could probably have a motion at this point.
Are we doing a motion on the enforcement order? Just are we doing a motion on the RDA?
I'd suggest do the RDA first and then follow up with the rescinding of the enforcement order. I'm just trying to think. I think the argument is that it's certainly within the resource area, but the impact is de minimis or negligible. It doesn't have an adverse impact on the resource. So I could support a -3 determination on this.
I don't know if I can support putting anything in the no build zone.
Well, how do we approve it then?
I don't know if I do.
Could we put a restriction in there, -3, providing that what Weston was getting to, that the drainage be perhaps done on a yearly basis and be contained to not cause erosion or destruction of any part of the wetland boundary.
I mean, in that light, I'm just as worried about the pool chemicals as I am about
anything
anything
what I'm
else.
thinking about is really the chlorine and whatever else is in there.
Not that it doesn't happen. People are draining their pools wherever they feel like it every year. But
that's a valid point.
I don't know if I could support allowing within 25 feet, and we could say something like pump it off site and send in an invoice. Send us the receipt yearly for ever, but I don't want to do that either.
Certainly a tough situation, and it's
I think that I would support the pool if it is outside of the 25-foot no build zone.
I want to go back to the application. What were the dimensions of the pool again? How many?
that's
It's a
16 by
16-foot.
16 foot or 20 feet from the wetland boundary.
Oh boy, it's only 16 feet in diameter, huh?
Yeah.
I think the smallest one you can do is 12 feet.
I'm looking at the comments too, and it looks like it's well within 20 feet. Looks like it's probably starts at like 10 feet.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's a 16-foot diameter pool in a 20-foot zone. It starts at 2 feet.
right.
I mean, it's not that's not a perfect measurement, but it's not 10. You know?
So it appears he might have the correct distance from the lot line. I think you probably have to be a number of feet from the lot line as well to put a structure up.
Yeah.
Moved over a little. Does anybody know if you can move a pool like that once it's up?
You'd have to empty it.
Right.
Once you empty the water, you just drag it across the lawn. It's tarp and plastic, metal, light metal.
Is the pool full right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I think it is.
Well,
do we want to have a motion and see how it goes, or?
I'll make a motion to deny this this request for determination RDA. Is that how that works? I don't know if I've done that before.
I haven't got a copy of that up. It takes me a long time to get these things up on my other computer. Fran, do you have a copy of an RDA, a response to an RDA? Do you have we have 3 choices, I believe.
I can pull that up right now. Hold on one moment.
Well, while we're doing it, I think the challenge is that how do you make an argument that it's a negative impact when the impact is taking place exclusively within a no-build zone, which is basically designed to prevent an adverse impact. I mean, I'm empathetic to the homeowner and trying to provide a pool for his family, but to me, this is
our job.
Because, like you, Brad, this isn't a shade of gray. This is pretty black and white to me. It's almost it's analogous to the black and white, that we use for, flood zone and whether or not you got adequate flood storage compensation.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I don't feel good about it, but I stand by my decision.
No, I hear you, and I'm kind of leaning in that same direction.
So in terms of the determination, so you have the positive determination and the negative determination. Often we do the -3 determination. But then for positive determination, I can just read off that section. So the option number 1 is the area described on the reference plan is an area subject to protection under the Act. Removing, filling, dredging, or altering the area requires the filing of a notice of intent. So that's number 1. And then number 2A, the boundary delineations of the following resource areas described on the reference plans are just confirmed as accurate. Therefore, the resource area boundaries confirmed in this determination are binding as to all decisions rendered pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations regarding such boundaries for as long as this determination is valid. And then 2B is the boundaries of resource areas listed below are not confirmed by this determination, regardless of whether such boundaries are contained on the plans attached to this determination or to the request for determination. And then, so there are 3 more. So number 3 is the work described on reference plans and documents is within an area subject to protection under the Act and will remove, fill, dredge, or alter the area. Therefore, said work requires the filing of a notice of intent. I don't know how that's different than the first one. And then number 4, the work described on reference plan and documents is within the buffer zone and alter an area subject to protection under the Act. Therefore, said work requires the filing of a notice of intent or ANRAD simplified review if work is limited to the buffer zone. And then finally, number 5 is the area or work described on reference plans and documents is subject to review and approval by, and then name of municipality, pursuant to the following municipal wetland ordinance or bylaw.
So hearing that, Fran, my sense is 3A seems to be the most applicable here. And therefore you deny and you issue a 3A, and if they want to pursue, they would have to file a notice of intent. But I would argue that we can already read the tea leaves on this in terms of what the outcome would be. So why I wouldn't want the homeowner to incur additional costs for filing a notice of intent, which is almost certainly to have not be approved by the Conservation Commission.
Right.
In reading the minutes of our last meeting when Mr. Galvez was on the line with us, he did offer a couple of times to take the pool down. So perhaps moving it is not something that he would think was beyond his grasp.
If he came back and was outside, if the entire pool was outside of a 25-foot buffer, I personally would feel a different way about this. It's a no activity zone with a 16-foot pool in it that has 3 feet of water. So
I think he's going to need some direction on this from past conversations with him. That if we said we need the pool to be X number of feet from the edge of the wetland, and perhaps even go out to the site and measure off with him. And it's entirely possible, looking at the plan that he submitted, that there's room there on the side of on the rear, I guess it would be east side of the house, that's still in the backyard for that pool. And certainly moving it shouldn't be, too much of a penalty for, starting the work when he already was in conversation with us about the yard being in violation.
So with that in mind, I'm wondering, as a suggestion, rather than voting on this tonight, how about continuing it till we get further clarification as to whether or not, the boundaries could be adjusted. And we could also tell the applicant that what's been submitted is unlikely to be an affirmative vote in support of the project is not likely to be rendered, and therefore, he can either, readjust his figure, or readjust the pool dimensions, or withdraw the application, take the pool down, because I think if in its current form, we either vote on 3A and say you need to file a notice of intent because we're not approving as an RDA, and then the outcome of that is likely to be we're going to reject the NOI, and I don't want to see this homeowner incur costs associated with that.
I was under the impression there was something in number 2 that said that we could deny it as filed because of the known established boundaries of the wetlands, and therefore we just say that this application isn't acceptable, but he could still file an RDA, the same paperwork with just the pool in a different spot if we find that there's another option.
But if we vote on it though, Brad, then he has to file another application and do all those application fees, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I think a continuation is perfectly legitimate because Mr. Galvez isn't with us this evening, and we don't know what he's thinking about all of this, whether he excuse me, whether he'd be happy to move the pool, that wouldn't be a problem for him, or just what his thoughts are. So with him not in attendance, I would tend to agree with Bill that we could put this on our next agenda.
So should we make a motion for a continuance for the RDA?
I would accept that motion if we have a second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Bill. Do we have any further discussion from anyone?
I would ask, Fran, if, you or Jared could reach out to Mr. Galvez and tell them the outcome of this and try and help, just explain what his potential options are. We're trying to be helpful, but, we're limited in terms of, there's kind of red lines that we can't pass, and this is one of them.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, we can be in touch with Mr.
I think he might be on the line. Is that?
Oh,
Okay, so do we want to vote on that motion now?
Is
Mr.
that
Galvez, is that you on the line?
Yes, we're here. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Okay, Mr. Galvez.
We're pretty good. We wasn't sure it would ask, but yeah. Yeah, so the only thing we set the pool over there because we don't have any other spot because we know we can't put the pool close to the street because it's not legal neither, and we thought it was the best option, and then the only option we have for the summer, and then what we're trying to do is trying to survive with this virus and stay at home and safe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's good. We want to take our family out with all these virus, these crazy things going up and never coming down.
Well,
So if that's the case and there's only one spot for the pool, I would support, the path that we discussed. I don't know if you heard the end of our conversation, that the RDA is presented is unlikely to pass through this board. We considered continuing in order to wait to speak with you. But hearing that you're here now and this is the only spot for it, I would support, we're only going to drain the pool once a year. So why make it now and why not make it when you feel like it in September, and do it once, and it's for the season, the coronavirus season. And after that, it's not acceptable in its current location.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I understand perfectly. So, yeah, we're here to so next step we can do next year if we want to set a pool is put something smaller, right?
That's just my opinion. We would have to vote on this. I was speaking with the board as much as I was you in that, and just offering another solution to a problem that we don't have an easy solution for.
Brad, I enjoy that. So that sounds like a good solution to it. I mean, you are right. We're only going to drain it once. There's no reason for him to, waste more water in a drought season as well. And, I think that's a good idea. That he maybe leave it there for the season, come back in the spring if he would like to put up his pool again, and perhaps we can find a better location.
I appreciate if we can find a good solution for that. I mean, next year we can try to find something smaller.
Mm-hmm.
What that would do too is I think that would, to my earlier point about temporary structure, we're forcing the pool to be a temporary structure because we're only giving we're giving a time limit on its existence in its current location, correct?
Yeah, and we have a pretty extenuating circumstance to lean on too.
Yeah, I think that's a good compromise and a solution, or an interim solution until Mr. Galvez can after the season reevaluate potential options for next season should he choose to want to have a pool longer term than just this season.
So I guess, Fran, if you don't mind, read us 3A one more time.
Yes, so it was number 3. The work described on reference plans and documents is within an area subject to protection under the Act and will remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work requires the filing of a notice of intent.
Yeah, we don't want to file a notice of intent.
But I don't know if that's the right one either, though, because we're not filling or dredging.
Well, 2B was the boundary was not confirmed. The boundary of the wetland was not confirmed. That might be more the case.
I like
I
you
like
know,
number 2 better as well.
and you know why? Because if we're saying now that Mr. Galvez is going to have to kind of reevaluate the location, and saying that we're giving kind of a temporary stay at this location, one could argue that we're going to verify and validate what the final location and boundaries will be in a subsequent filing and or modified filing.
Yeah, Oliver's not official. Nobody's verified this, so I would be fine with that.
If we could withdraw the motion to continue, I think that was Kevin, was it? Made that motion.
Yeah, I'll withdraw that motion.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
So it looks like we're going for a motion on the IRDA to issue a 2B, the boundary's not confirmed. And Brad, you want to fill in something on that?
Sure, I can make a motion to grant, I suppose, a positive 2A. Was it 2A or 2B?
No, it'd be 2B, I believe.
Positive 2B determination for this RDA filing on the grounds that our boundary is not confirmed, but at the time it appears that it is too close to the wetland boundary within the no-build zone.
Okay, and implied in that is that we're going to, once the pool is taken down, Mr. Galvez, you need to come back next year with an RDA to talk about, again, a new location perhaps for that pool if you want to put it back up.
All right. I have a question. We'd like to have a date at the end of this season. When do we have to take it down?
I guess the condition here for this determination is that the pool needs to be removed this year from its location. Yeah. That's
at the end of the season was.
How about we want to say by Thanksgiving? I mean, that gives you, a few.
How about Halloween?
Halloween, yeah.
Halloween.
All right.
And October, plenty.
Yeah.
October 20. Got it. All right. Thank you. And yeah.
Okay, we haven't voted on this, but do we have?
Yeah, you can stay on the line, Mr. Galvez. I'll second that Brad's motion.
All right, and we got to vote on it.
Motion seconded. Any further discussion, Bill?
Before we vote on it, is it clear, Fran, that this vote sunsets? It's temporary nature. I don't want there to be. It's got to be clear that the pool can't stay there long term. You think it's clear enough in what we've said?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I would say that that's just a condition of your vote, is that it ends on October 31st. That's how we would treat it.
Yep.
Okay, so motion made and seconded that the pool is a 2B. The boundary is not confirmed. We've got in the minutes that we're going to let it stay there for the remainder of this season till October 31st if needed, and that anything to reconstruct the pool next season would need to come back to us. So do we have a motion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Chairwoman Varnum?
Yes.
Commissioner Lovely?
Yes.
Commissioner Dillon?
Yes.
Commissioner Butenheis?
Yes.
Commissioner Downs?
Yes.
Commissioner Standish?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Mr. Galvez, you have the pool for the rest of this season, and we want you to come back next year to discuss where that pool is going to go next season, if you want to still have it in your yard. And before you put the water in it for next year, we want to talk about that, file another RDA. Okay?
Okay. All right. But we have to redo everything again, right? Next year.
Well, you can use the same paperwork, but you're going to measure differently and move the pool so that it's more than 25 feet from the edge of the wetland. And
Okay.
if you don't know where that edge is, we can have someone come out and look over the property with you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, the other part of Mr. Galvez's appearance tonight is the enforcement order that we had in place for the mulch that was placed and then subsequently removed from the property. We kept that open just because of the pool, so now it appears that that may be time to close out that enforcement order.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to rescind the enforcement order.
Motion made, seconded by Kevin.
I'll second that.
Have we got any discussion? All those in favor? I think we can see each other. Raise your hand. Okay, the motion is unanimously made and passed to remove the enforcement order, to rescind the enforcement order. Thank you, Mr. Galvez. We're done with you for tonight. We expect to hear from you next season, next year.
Have a good year.
Thank you.
Two.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on our agenda. Our next is an enforcement order, which was given to Kamlesh Patel, location 103 Fotine Drive. It was concerning construction work occurring within the 100-foot buffer zone to the vegetated wetland without the permission from the Lowell Conservation Commission. Now, I don't know how many of us were on the board, probably not too many more than perhaps Bill and Kevin, when we had this property come before us for some construction work in the backyard, consisting of a wall and a deck, I believe. Apparently the homeowner was under the understanding that particular order was still in effect. Let's see. Do we have, and we also have a request for a certificate of compliance and a request for determination of applicability. So we have three things going on here. I think the enforcement order is probably the last one we'll take. So we can probably deal with the request for the certificate of compliance on the old work, which I believe took place in 2012. Bill, do you remember this one?
I don't, but boy, that tells you how long I've been on the Conservation Commission.
Good evening, Madam Chair. It's Kenneth Laney, a Cornerstone Land Consultants
Okay,
representing.
I was wondering if you were here.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I actually, I believe maybe, Louise, you were the only one that was around on 2012, at least that I remember. But
right.
As you had stated, Kamlesh Patel and DK Patel's son, we had come before you in 2012. And I guess partly my fault. I don't know if I explained fully to my clients that this order was only good for 3 years. So I take a little bit of responsibility here for not letting them know that, and ultimately not applying for the COC within that 3-year time period. So I think there was a little confusion there. And again, my apologies for that. But ultimately, we had come before you before to install an enclosed porch on the rear of this existing structure. And I'm not sure if, Louise, I'm going to really date you here. We came before you, I think, 2 years prior to that to put an addition on the house. So we did do the COC for the addition, but we never did the COC for the patio and the rear deck. And the applicant never completed the enclosed open air porch in the front of the house either. So we had a couple of things that we were requesting in this RDA as a result of the enforcement order. But ultimately, our first goal was to close out the certificate of compliance for the open order that existed. And we included in there the work that was not completed, which was obviously the porch in the front of the house, and then, you know, the patio that's being done, hopefully under the RDA that we're requesting. So I did do an as-built of the existing structure that is provided on the plan that I submitted with the RDA request. And what I guess ultimately DK and Chemlesh were hoping to complete with the RDA was to be allowed to finish the patio in the rear yard. It is outside of the 50-foot buffer zone, but it does fall within the 100-foot buffer zone. And in addition, in order to complete that patio, there was an existing stone wall that demarcated the backyard from the garden. I'm not sure how many of you folks have seen the property, but they have a pretty vast garden between the 50 and the wetland area. And that stone wall was somewhat in disrepair, Madam Chair. So they were just trying to repair that stone wall, put in some fresh new segmented blocks so that that could, you know, support the weight of the patio that was going to be put in on the backyard area. So we're hoping to move forward. We did get some comments from Fran, who brought up that the open air porch in the front, although I didn't really research this all this much, would potentially bring this particular parcel's building area over the floor area ratio requirement in this zone. And after finding that out and speaking with DK and Chemlesh Patel, we would take that request off of this RDA, and we're looking just to complete the retaining wall work with the patio in the rear yard, if that's all right. And any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Okay, so I didn't say what the DEP file number was for the original work. It's 206-692.
Yes, ma'am.
The certificate of compliance is requested for. And Ms. Delaney, you're asserting that the work was done in compliance with the order.
Yes, ma'am. The work that was completed was done in compliance with the order. Again, there were those, you know, small areas of work that weren't completed that I identified on the COC request.
This order is expired anyway, so I think we can probably issue a certificate if everyone feels comfortable with that. Bill, would you like to make that motion?
I'll offer a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for this completed project.
Okay, second. Brad, any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. So the certificate has been issued for the prior work. We now have, you know, the RDA was sent in response to the enforcement order. I think everyone gets upset when they see a large pile of fill, such as we saw in the driveway, and you wonder where that fill is going to be deposited next. I'm not really sure why so much fill was necessary. Do you understand where that's going, Mr. Lania?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Actually, so what happened is again, that retaining wall on the rear was, you know, was made out of stones and boulders. So when they tried to prep that wall to have the segmented block put on, they removed a good amount of fill material, stockpiled it in the driveway area. You know, I've since spoken to them and told them that we need some erosion control around that to ensure that there's no runoff during any storm events. But ultimately, once the segmented wall got constructed, that fill was going to be put in back behind the segmented wall, as there was going to need to be some fill to hold the geogrid back on that wall in the rear of the yard.
So are we increasing the area above the wall by filling?
So I believe it's probably going to go up by about a foot, Louise, but you know, when I got there to do my survey, they had already taken the material out. So I don't really have a good base to do that analysis or comparison of what was there to what's going to be completed. I mean, the ultimate goal is to flatten that area in the rear where the backyard was that sloped into the retaining wall. So I got to assume that it's probably adding about a foot, Louise.
So you don't feel any material was brought into the site except for the block for the wall?
And some gravel, Louise. We had to put gravel in behind the wall. So I did tell the contractor when I did get involved that, you know, there would need to be a decent amount of gravel installed behind that wall. So there was the fill that was removed from the backyard that was stockpiled. I believe there was some gravel on site as well, but all that work will be behind the wall, which would again be more, you know, heading towards the 100-foot buffer line and away from the 50-foot buffer line.
Okay, so there's no work proposed below the wall, is that correct?
That is correct, Louise.
And there's no work proposed in the driveway area?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, and we're not concerned with the front porch proposal.
Yeah,
It's been
you know, after Fran's comments, I gotta say, I didn't think of that. That FAR ratio seems to get me a lot, but I will have to take a look into that. Maybe what we can do is size it down and come back with that at a later date, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I don't know how the board feels on this one. Comments on the proposed work here? We're replacing a wall that was already there. It seems that there was some amount of gravel brought into the site necessary in order to keep drainage from, you know, undermining the wall, I assume.
That is correct, Madam Chair. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. How far from the wetland is the closest work being done?
Pull that plan out. I believe the closest work being done with that retaining wall would be around 54.4 feet to wetland flag 5.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I do feel a little more comfortable about it that they have an engineer working for them, overseeing the project. I know some people take it upon themselves to redo their backyards without any consultation.
I think this is a project that I would feel comfortable supporting a -3 determination. I think that the challenge is, you know, what exactly we're approving in the project, assuming no porch is going to be built, correct? Just the retaining wall portion of the proposal is going to be followed through with.
That is correct,
Patio, I believe, right?
What's that?
The patio is still to come, is that not correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the reason that the wall needed to be corrected was in order to install that patio, because
Yeah.
the patio, you know, you really can't do a patio on a slope. So wall was failing. They wanted to replace the wall parts. So they didn't take out the entire stone wall, just the top parts that were kind of rolling over into the garden area to make it more secure, because then they wanted to, you know, you have to compact that area to put a patio down to give it any type of longevity.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up is I'd be one, if we were to vote on it, I would say let's issue a -3 determination specific to the rebuilding of that retaining wall and making sure there's no ambiguity with respect to what we're approving, knowing that there's some variance issues that need to be worked out with the size of the patio. And my sense is your client would come back with a new RDA for the patio at a later date if that's what he or she chose to do.
Not for the patio, but for the porch.
I'm sorry,
Right?
for
So
the porch,
yeah.
correct. The
Yes,
porch.
sir. Absolutely, Mr. Lovely. I would agree with that.
Okay, so I don't know. I'll throw it out there. I mean, if we can talk about it more, but I'll offer a motion to issue a -3 determination to allow the, you know, building of the retaining wall as proposed by the applicant.
I'll second that motion.
Further discussion?
I would just like to, you know, have you double check and make sure there actually is some erosion control that goes down as you guys work with the gravel and the wall.
Absolutely.
Any other concerns?
What is the patio surface?
It would be a patio stone block.
I'm good.
So some kind of drainage going in there? Or
So
surface?
there's really no drainage, Louisa. It's typically when you have a wall, in order to keep it from falling over, you put a kind of gravel behind it, give it a chance to daylight out through the wall, rather than pushing against the wall with pressure. So there's no intention to put any drainage in, just to put gravel behind the wall to give it that ability to relieve that pressure behind the wall.
So there will be a pervious strip
Yes, ma'am.
between the
Yep.
patio and the wall.
And that'll go right into the garden.
Okay.
Yeah, this is standard construction.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. No further discussion. We can vote on that motion for -3 determination on this particular project. All those in favor?
Aye.
2, 3, 4, unanimously in favor. Thank you. And the motion passes.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll work with Fran just to make sure. I'll send him some photographs of the erosion control and
Okay.
make sure everything gets squared away with the wall.
We're not quite done with the Patels yet. We have an outstanding enforcement order. We have a motion on that enforcement order. It returned to work before they had come in with an RDA.
Make a motion to rescind that enforcement order.
A motion made to rescind, seconded by
Quick question, was it ever ratified first?
Fran, I believe it was it not?
No, this is the first time that it's been on an agenda.
Okay, so we essentially don't have to do anything with this.
Fair enough.
Want to
Yeah.
withdraw that motion, Brad?
Withdrawn.
So we got the RDA almost immediately, I assume, after the enforcement orders. It was
Thank you.
not ratified with our summer schedule.
Correct.
All right, we're all set then, Mr. Lania. Thank you.
All right, excellent. You guys have a great evening. I appreciate the time.
You too.
Okay,
All right,
you.
Take care.
thank you.
Bye.
Okay, moving along, we have an enforcement order, location 1345 Lawrence Street. The person involved is Douglas Quist, and the violation was tree cutting and fill dumping within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands without permission from the Conservation Commission. Is Mr. Quist with us tonight?
Hi, this is Doug. I am here.
Hi there.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you tell me what your plans were, what your intent was when the trees and the fill were put out there on your property?
The tree I thought was outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. I wasn't aware that the land that was designated a wetland on the backside of my property was so large. So I've cut trees down on my property since I've owned the property in 2006. So it was just one of many trees I've cut over the years. And I didn't think it was a problem. So I underestimated the size of the wetlands and where the buffer zone was. So it was just one tree that I was cutting. I don't have any intentions of cutting any more vegetation back there.
Okay, so this particular tree didn't meet with your favor, or you're planning to put
It
some?
was just a little crooked and was blocking sunlight to some maple trees that are growing on my back lawn.
Okay, and what was the nature of the fill?
I had purchased some dirt this beginning of July to replace some dirt next to my driveway in my front lawn. It was all full of weeds, and I wanted to make a gravel bed next to my driveway. So I was just digging up the dirt next to my driveway and moving it to my backyard. I have a pile of dirt in my backyard outside of the 100-foot buffer zone that I intend to use next season for gardening and leveling my back lawn.
Okay, so have you had that wetland delineated? Do you know exactly where that wetland boundary is?
No, it has not. Fran gave me a plot plan that showed it, and that's the first time I've ever seen a plot plan with the wetlands on it. I certainly would appreciate if someone would mark out where the wetlands are. And also my back lawn encroaches on the 100-foot buffer zone, and it would be helpful if I knew what parts of my lawn I'm free to maintain without permits, and which parts of my property I would need permits if I did want to remove some vegetation in the future.
Okay. We don't generally do those delineations ourselves. Sometimes it's pretty easy to tell where the boundary is, and we can informally eyeball it, but there are people who are certified to do that kind of work. Your best bet would be to come in if you plan or want to do something in your backyard. Now that you know that somewhere out there there's a wetland, that you come in with your plan, and it's something called a request for determination of applicability, to see if whatever work you wanted to do was going to be affecting the wetland. And that's what we do here, is we listen to what you want to do and then determine.
So next year, when the vegetation starts to grow in again, if I wanted to remove some vegetation, I would have to apply for this permit?
It's a fairly simple process. You don't need any, you can have a hand-drawn plan even. I know many times along wetlands we have a lot of invasive species, and I, for one, like to see those cut out. Like
I got Japanese knotweed back there, and I got skunk cabbage back there. Is what I've been for the last 15 years. I've been knocking that stuff down.
Well, skunk cabbage is a good thing. That will enhance your wetland.
I got ferns back there. They don't usually bother me, but the Japanese knotweed, I don't really appreciate.
That's maybe a losing battle, but I don't like to see that take hold either. So tonight we have an enforcement order. We don't have a request for determination from you. Have you finished doing whatever it was you started doing out there, which caused us to give you an enforcement order?
Well, the tree is laying on the ground back there, and I would certainly like permission to cut that tree up. And the stump is about 18 inches tall. I'd like to cut that flush to the ground.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that I would say should be done, because now it's actually filling the wetland now that it's lying on the ground, if that's where the wetland is. We don't know exactly where the wetland is, however.
Once I cut the tree up, would you like it out of the buffer zone?
Well,
or can I leave it back there?
That's what we have to determine here tonight, is what needs to be done to remedy whatever has already been done out there. So,
because I got 15 years worth of trees that I've cut that I've piled up back there, and I'll remove them if that's the right thing to do. I've been slowly burning them over the years, and the wood's starting to rot and deteriorate. So it's getting past burning. But I had never intended to leave all that wood back there forever. It's just been a slow process of removing it. I wasn't in any rush.
yeah,
But
well,
I can remove it if it needs to be removed.
that is considered fill. Fill can be many kinds of things, not just dirt. So downed logs would be considered fill, and if they are within the wetland buffer zone, then certainly if you can remove them, that would be a plus in my mind.
How much time could I have to remove this stuff? Because again, it is a bit of a pile.
Yeah, well, that's what we have to decide tonight, what the extent of what you need to do out there is. You seem to know a couple of things that need to be done as far as removing things that have been placed in the buffer zone too close to the wetland. And in my mind, you can do that at any time. I don't want an enforcement order to stop you from remedying things that have happened in the past that maybe shouldn't have. So if you know that there's things out there that are in the buffer zone that can be moved and should be moved, then I would encourage you to do that, but we don't want it to end up in some other wetland somewhere else. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, I can either bring it to a place with my truck where I pay to dispose of it, or if Lowell has a place where residents can dump logs and stuff, that would be very helpful.
Oh, certainly, I'd encourage you to remove anything that you're not going to use if it's impacting, you know, a wetland area.
I could probably get it done before the coming fall.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we perhaps would want to talk about a deadline or some kind of a date by which we'd like to see work regarding this enforcement order completed, or at least make a good attempt at completion on it. Is anyone...
I'd be glad to do that.
So if you have downed logs that can be moved and should be moved, I would encourage that to be done. I don't know what other people on the board feel, but if that's something that can be done and certainly will improve the wetland area, I think you should start on that. Does anyone have opinions on?
Go ahead, Bill. It looked like you might.
No, before we even get into it, just to be clear on the area we're talking about, to Louise's point, if you look at the aerial photograph that the city provided, you know, it's got a 45-foot line, and if I was to extend that, you know, to get to 100 feet, it looks like it probably runs about 10 to 20 feet beyond that shed on the left-hand, or I should say, let's be more specific, I guess that western portion part of your property towards the house. So I would say go from 20 feet in front of that shed, moving back is probably all area that's jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act, because that's within the 100-foot buffer. And I think the intent would be to have those, I see the picture of the logs there. The intent would be to have the logs moved out of that area, you know, either off-site or, you know, further towards your house. I mean, I think the choice is yours, but I think you
I wouldn't want to keep the stuff on the property, because the whole idea is to keep the bugs away from the property.
I totally get it.
House.
I'm just trying to give you a sense. I mean, as Commissioner Varnum said, we don't, you know, we're not wetland scientists out here to delineate wetland boundaries specifically, but I think you could look at that figure yourself and eyeball, you know, what's kind of, you know, 100 feet from the wetland moving towards your home. And my sense is it's probably about, I was to guess, maybe about 15 to 20 feet in front of that shed on the left-hand portion of your property, moving backwards, if that helps.
That's where you would estimate the wetlands begins?
No. From the wetland boundary, there's a 100-foot buffer requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then within that 100-foot buffer, there's 25-foot no disturb zone. And, you know, I'd say that some of those logs look like they're within that 25-foot no disturb zone. I think you could probably talk with, our environmental agent, you know, the Fran or Jared, to get, you know, a better sense, but look at that figure, you know, just have a starting point so you have some sense of what area is under the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. So that's just kind of a general, that's just a general comment. And then with respect to specifics, you know, I'd like to be somewhat flexible on a deadline for getting those logs out of there. I mean, they have been there for a while, and you know, and it's this one tree that I think prompted us to issue an enforcement order. So I think we can be somewhat flexible to give you time to identify a place to actually have those logs disposed of at.
So you wouldn't know of whether the city of Lowell has a place for residents to put stuff like that?
Not off the top, I mean.
Yeah, okay. I'll have to do some research to find out where I can bring.
Yeah, I mean, I would ask, you know, find out from the city, you know, DPW or someone, whether they, you know, if there's any, you know, stump dumps, that are out there, or a solid waste landfill that would take, the non-hazardous stump dumps as part of their, to kind of
Because
chip
I
off
would be
waste fill.
prohibited. I would be prohibited by cost. I don't have much
Right.
funds available right now to spend a bunch of money disposing of old logs.
Fair enough. What do others think? I mean, that was just thrown out. Kind of, I think the general comment. What to give this gentleman a sense of what the boundaries are in terms of the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act, and then within that, what are the specific things we're looking to do in the short term?
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I'd add to your recommendations is that we are paying attention to anything within 100 feet of the wetlands. I don't believe that the DPW offers a green disposal for residents, but it is worth a call. I would definitely try them.
Okay.
That would be the group that would have something like that if they do. I mean, it's not a huge soil pile that we're talking about, and I feel the same way about the trees with Bill. I would like to see them moved out of there, but I don't need to set a tight timeline on that either.
Okay.
I have a question. How many trees would you say you have in the back?
I've cut over a dozen trees in my backyard in the 15 years I've been here, of various sizes, things as small as 6 inches in diameter, and a couple of trees maybe over 12 inches in diameter. I'd say about a dozen trees.
So, as far as how much debris you would have, it would probably be like a dump truck full.
Yeah, it'd be a couple of coats, but it's all rotting. Some of it, again, is over 10 years old. So when you go to pick it up, it's just going to fall apart. It's all rotten wood.
So I'm just not thinking that is going to be too expensive to have done, because it won't be that much work, but you seem to think it will be.
No, I think I can take care of it myself. It's just finding a place where I can dispose of it where I won't incur too much financial cost. I'm fine doing the labor myself. I just don't want to incur any large financial costs getting rid of these logs.
Yeah, I don't seem to think, I mean, I can't really give you any recommendations, but a quick Google search, I'm sure you could find a place that would take it. And I know they don't run too expensive to take fill. Different companies might use it for mulch or something like that.
Kevin, on that point, I was just going to say the same thing, without naming names. I just typed in stump dumps near me, and I got about 4 or 5 places that, anyone could kind of look at their website. I think my sense is the biggest thing of cost is probably the T&D, getting the transportation of the material to the disposal location. But if you're willing to do that yourself, then it's probably just a nominal cost, because a lot of these places will grind this up and use it like a daily cover for like landfills and things like that.
I just only have a small truck, so it'll be a few trips because I can't overfill the truck. But I'm willing to do it, and I'll do the Google search. And as long as the financial cost isn't too large, I should be able to get it done rather quickly.
And I think you're hearing from us. We're not looking at this as immediate. I think there's some flexibility there in time, to get it done.
I appreciate that.
So I think perhaps what we want to do is pick a future meeting that perhaps Mr. Quist can come in and give us an update on this particular project, and leave the enforcement order in place until we hear what the results are of his search for a place to remove this material to. So we do have a meeting I believe it's September 9th, and I think in September we're back to 2 meetings a month, so we could put it out to this fourth Wednesday of September, if that would be a better time.
Well, by September 9th, I think I should at least have a plan. Whether I've actually moved all the logs by then, that might be a little bit of a tight time frame. And as you were saying, there's flexibility in time, but I certainly should have a plan available by September 9th.
Okay, so Fran, why don't we, if we could have a motion to continue this, to put it on the agenda for our September 9th meeting, we'll get an update and go from there.
We need to ratify this order too, Fran, right?
Yes.
Okay, so first we'll ratify it, and then we'll extend it. So do we have a motion to ratify this particular?
I'll offer a motion to ratify this enforcement order.
Okay, seconded by
I'll second
Kevin, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously, thank you. And now if we could have a motion to extend or continue this until our September 9th meeting for an update from Mr. Quist.
I'll offer a motion to, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to continue this to the September 9th meeting.
Okay, September 9th agenda, seconded by Bill. All those in favor? Weston, okay, so that passes unanimously as well. So we're going to be hearing from you then again on our next meeting, which is September 9th. And thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. Quist. And good luck.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
You too. Take
Bye.
care.
Next on our agenda is an enforcement order issued to Jody J. Lett, 113 Potine Drive. It was driveway paving within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands without permission from the commission. I see Mrs. Gillette is with us tonight. I did take a look at the property this afternoon. The part that is newly worked on is not actually paved, but it is a material that's fairly impervious. It's what do they call it? Tailings or something like that of asphalt taken up from street chompings or something. I did speak with the homeowner and looked at the site. In the photos, it shows as lawn. What they've done is lowered the elevation of that extension of the driveway about a foot. So there is a raw edge there, a vertical edge of material that's not stabilized. There is a fairly large ridge between the driveway and the wetland area that was probably created when the house was built some years ago. So I don't believe anything from this new driveway is going to be washing into the wetland. I didn't see an alternative to this as far as needing a bigger driveway. And I don't think it's really going to impact the wetland that much, as long as what isn't stable yet is somehow stabilized. But I'd be willing to listen to other people's questions and comments on this particular problem out there. Would we like to hear from the homeowner? Would you like to explain your project, Ms. Gillette?
My husband, and what we did is we basically, there was the equivalent of a driveway there. What we did was we leveled it out so that it was not, so it was an even surface. We were parking cars there. We had been parking cars there. There was nothing removed as far as your trees or anything like that. It was just a leveled out so that we could park the car, and then also to be able to, take care of snow in the winter a little easier than we had been doing it since it was sort of at an angle. In the back, where the on the other side of the door that goes to the garage was a retaining wall that was about we're estimating that it was about 12 feet long, and we extended that just a little bit longer because we currently are a multi-generational family. We have some foster kids and some
Foster elderly.
foster elderly. His mother-in-law. So we've got more people in here. So we've needed more trash barrels, and we didn't have any way of keeping trash barrels in some neat way. And as I told Ms. Varnum, though, we were having a raccoon problem, so we were trying to find a way to keep them nice and neat and even and improve the look of the front. So we are intending to rebuild that retaining wall a little bit longer. If it makes sense for you to request that we add some blocks to the sides in order to stabilize that sort of berm, we would be happy to do that. We hadn't planned to really go too far down around the corner. We were just doing what was already there, which was a 3-foot wall. We were just doing the 3-foot wall and just extending it. And the fill that you saw behind it was just the fill that you use for retaining walls, like they were using on 103 Fotine on our neighbor's lawn. So it was not adding to any wetland filling process. So I'm new to this process. I'm learning, and so I'm guessing we need to do a request for a determination of applicability for that wall, or do we not, since we already have a big pile of dirt needing some way to support it.
Okay, the work is not completed out there, so we do have to determine what type of work will make it so the wetland isn't threatened in the future. There is a small drain at the lower end of the driveway, which apparently takes some of the runoff from the driveway. As far as the raw edge to where it was lowered about a foot, I'm thinking the driveway is almost wide enough that you could put a small slope along there. It might not be that easy to care for, though, as far as if you put grass there, it'd be hard to mow. And so I'm not sure whether a wall is something I'd want to see there. I'm not in the construction business myself. Some of you guys are.
I'm having trouble picturing exactly where this wall would go. Is it in between the new and old areas of driveway?
Can you see a picture of the house with a grassy area along the driveway?
Yes.
That whole grassy area is now gone. It's been lowered flat with the driveway and left an edge of what now looks like a berm because the driveway's been lowered to that extent. It's left an edge there, which is vertical, but it's just dirt. It's just loose dirt. There's nothing holding it together. I'm assuming that at some point it's going to erode.
I think there should be a second picture that Fran had taken that was of the guys with the roller.
I see it now. Yes.
Yeah, it's that right there on the back that the wall was just a replacement wall and a few more feet.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with the construction of a retaining wall there insofar as the constructability aspect of it. I'm trying to determine exactly my thoughts on the addition of this much impervious. That's I'm a lot more concerned about that than I am about the wall itself. I mean, you can weed whack anything, you know, a little bit of berm. The wall itself isn't a problem, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I am a lover of gravel driveways. But when you get that material that basically hardens into asphalt, it's no longer pervious to any extent.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like what you described will remain pervious.
Could ask for an RDA to be.
I think this needs an RDA.
Sent in, and then we'll have more of a sense of what needs to be done to, you can perhaps consult with someone, Ms. Gillette, and decide what treatment that edge would need in order to keep it from eroding back further and further with every rainfall.
Okay, so are you referring to the edge on the right-hand side?
The edge along the driveway, the length of the driveway, yeah.
Okay.
You are going to put a wall on that edge that you've created up near the house, I believe.
Correct.
You're going to put a wall there, and that'll be an extensive wall, perhaps 3 feet tall.
3 feet tall, 16 feet long.
Yeah.
Is our plan for the new wall.
So it's after you turn the corner and run the length of the driveway that you have an unprotected edge, which is also the protection of the wetland to keep things from eroding into the wetland.
Okay, so so just to be clear on the RDA is regarding the edge of the driveway, not the back, not the retaining wall in the back.
No, we would want to see any additional work that you want to do mentioned in the RDA. So you also should mention the work that has been done because you did it without an RDA. You just kind of pretend that you haven't done it yet and mention it all in the request. So you're going to request that the driveway be leveled, even though it's already been done. And if we decide that that wasn't something that should happen, then we perhaps will say it has to be put back the way it was. So, you know, so whatever work you intended to do or still have not yet done that you want to finish doing regarding that expansion of your driveway and redoing of the retaining wall, you need to put into, and this is a form that you can get from our office. You can call the conservation office and they will direct you to the form. And you also need to include some drawings of exactly where and what this work is that you're talking about. You know, maybe get out there with a tape measure and include actual measurements and things like that.
Certainly.
So I think that's your next step. Meanwhile, Fran, I don't think we haven't ratified this enforcement order yet, have we?
No.
Okay, so I think we can ratify the enforcement order and leave that in place. Meanwhile, you're working on your RDA, and perhaps we'll have that done for our September 9th meeting. It needs to be in about 10 days ahead of time so it can get on our agenda.
Okay, that was my next question, was when does my RDA need to be in?
Well, our next meeting is September 9th, and when you're talking to the conservation office, and I believe you've probably spoken with Fran already, when you're talking with them, they can set you up with what needs to be done. There will be a notice that has to go into the newspaper and things like that. That's why we need some lead time on it.
But and if that schedule's a little too aggressive, you know, we do meet twice a month come September, and you could, you know, if it doesn't look like the 9th is doable, you could look to schedule for the meeting on the 23rd.
Right.
We'll get it. We'll get it for you.
Yeah, so for the September 9th meeting, the deadline is August 19th, so a week from today. And then that just leaves us time to run the legal ad that's required for the RDA. And then the next deadline after that would be September 2nd, and that would be for the September 23rd meeting.
Okay, so you can decide if it's a little too aggressive to get that in within the next week, or you want to go for the second meeting in September. Did you have any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
I think we should also ask that the silt sack is added in the time between.
Okay, along the length of the driveway?
Straw wattles like between the wetlands and any area that was disturbed, so that if water flows through loose, unobstructed soil, then it won't wash silt into the wetlands. Do you understand what I mean, Jody?
No, I do not.
It is a little bit raised up there, Brad. I think there's no possibility of any water going from her driveway to the wetland right now.
I was thinking even the top of the hill, but I haven't been there. If you don't think it's necessary, then I can drop it.
I think because nothing on the surface, on the top surface has been disturbed, that perhaps we're okay at least for the next 6 weeks.
I'm fine if you are. No problem.
Okay. So could I have a motion to ratify the enforcement order?
I'll make a motion to ratify.
Seconded by?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Weston. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. So the enforcement order, Ms. Gillette, is going to stay in place until we get different paperwork from you, and then we'll probably rescind the enforcement order and work off of the new paperwork, the request for the determination of applicability. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from you. Make sure you call the conservation office at City Hall, and they'll give you some direction on that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you for being so patient tonight and attending our fairly long meeting.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have a request for determination of applicability from Kelly Doherty for New England Power. The project location is along power lines between Bolt Street and Carmine Street in the utility right-of-way. The applicant's proposing soil borings in the right-of-way within the bordering land subject to flooding and the 25-foot riverfront area. Ms. Millman, are you representing tonight?
Good evening, everybody. My name's Allison Millman. I'm here from BSC Group. I'm here representing New England Power for the J162 soil borings project. The work entails what's called exploratory borings. They're temporary disturbance associated with geotechnical investigation. The purpose of the work is to look at subsurface conditions, depth of bedrock, suitable soil, for the future replacement of the existing transmission line structures. So the work will be conducted on the existing transmission line right away. The construction and the entrance locations will all be using the historically utilized access routes that are currently existing at the gate locations at the right of way. At several locations, 5 locations, these borings are proposed within areas that are subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, specifically work within BLSF for the temporary borings. And then also we do have some located in riverfront area. which typically, if we were permitting just under the Wetlands Protection Act, would be considered an exempt minor buffer zone activity. But the City of Lowell bylaw does not recognize minor buffer zone exemptions in the riverfront area. So therefore, we're asking for permission from the commission to complete these exploratory soil borings under both the Wetlands Protection Act and the local wetlands bylaw. In total, we're looking at 5 soil borings. I think there's a total of 3 borings at structure 50 and 1 boring each at 4 additional structures. And they're about 4 to 6 inches in diameter. It's a temporary hole that's installed in the ground. The soil is sampled. And then the existing disturbed soil is then used to backfill the hole. To gain access for the rig, which is about the size of a John Deere tractor, they'll need to do some vegetation trimming and mowing just in order to get the equipment into these areas. As you know, maintained transmission line right-of-ways are typically very thick with the vegetation. They maintain usually like a shrub herbaceous cover type. So in order to get the equipment in, we will need to mow within these locations. But after the work's completed, the areas will be allowed to revegetate back to the existing conditions, and they'll be maintained the typical 5-year operation and maintenance that they do to keep the vegetation at suitable heights below the transmission lines. So the BLSF is associated with the Concord River, and also the riverfront area is associated with the Concord River. I did provide mapping to the commission to show where the locations are on the existing transmission line. They're associated with areas around Bolt Street, Carmine Avenue. Let's see, I'm getting my maps out here. I can give you a better description. Here we go. Yep, there's a location off of Bolt Street in an existing industrial complex. Then one on either side, basically, of the Concord River off of Billerica Street, off of Bolton Street, and then also off of Woburn Street. So that's where the work will be occurring on the transmission line right away. That's subject to the commission's review. Does anybody have any questions right now on the nature of the work or what's being proposed by the utility company?
Does this all take place in basically a single day, or is it an extended time?
It'll extend. So there's mobilization time frames. So they'll have to come out and first start the mowing. That's a separate crew than the geotechnical crews. After that, they do need to trailer in the drilling rig. Each borehole typically, depending on the conditions, you know, what's happening in the bedrock and the soil, takes about 1 to 2 days. So I think in total, we have 5 borings. I think we can expect it to be completed in about 2 to 3 weeks, the actual boring activities, with mowing probably occurring a few weeks prior.
Thank you. Anyone else? I thought the application was pretty inclusive. Everything.
Yeah, it's way more than I need for borings. I'm all set.
What is it? Hollow stem augering that you're doing out there, or?
Yeah, they usually do the hollow shaft with the wash water. The water is contained in the within like a container underneath the actual drill rig. It is recycled, and that it's basically this kind of a motion, and the water lubricates and reduces the heat.
Yeah, and what's the plan with the drill cuttings once you're done? You collect your soil sample. You're gonna just backfill in the hole, or are you gonna drum them and take them off site?
So sometimes they will need to take the actual core samples of rock to do the testing on that, but any of the side cast material that's more like a soil-based or a granular material, that can just be used to backfill into the holes.
All right, and obviously if you run into any soil stain that looks like contamination, you'd open up a release tracking number with Mass DEP, right?
Yes, actually there is the location of known contamination that's currently on record with New England Power. And that's off of Bolt Street. So there will definitely be some special precautions that will be required for working within that area. And it's a known activity use limitation site. And they already have a permit with the with the DEP for work within that location. So it is known.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else with questions or comments? So this is an RDA. Do we have a motion concerning this?
I'll offer a motion to issue a -3 determination in support of this project.
A motion for -3, second. Brad. No further discussion. We'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All in favor. The vote is unanimous. Thank you for your patience and for coming in tonight.
Thank you all for hearing. Have a nice
Thank you.
evening.
Two.
Bye-bye.
Good thing. Take care.
Okay, moving on to page 3 of our agenda. We have a notice of intent. And this is DEP number 206-0801. Ting Chang, representing the city of Lowell. The project location is Newhall Street, the bridge over the River Meadow Brook. They're going to replace deteriorated sidewalks, repave the road, and complete other repairs on this particular bridge. I think everybody that's been over this bridge has kind of held their breath a little in recent years.
Yeah.
Nicole, are you representing a city tonight?
Yes, I am. I'm Bob Nikolai from TEC here on behalf of the city. As you've said, anybody who's driven over this bridge understands the need for bridge deck repairs, sidewalk repairs. What we're actually doing is putting up a separated sidewalk barrier so the pedestrians will be protected, and then another barrier on the back of the sidewalk to protect pedestrians there as well. Also scattered curb repairs and basic paving repairs. Sorry, is the basic extent of the project. I know the first time I submitted the plans, we didn't have, I think the erosion controls layer may have been turned off on our drawings, but they're there now with the plans I submitted yesterday to Fran. We have our compost filtered tubes surrounding the site and our silt sacks in the catch basins. And we will be using shielding under the bridge when we are doing the demo of the existing bridge deck. That just looks like timber planks suspended from the bottom flange of the existing beams that catches any big chunks of concrete that may fall while we're working. And then we also have the floating silt fence in the water to catch any other debris. No increase to the footprint of the bridge. So yes, and DEP did review with no comments.
Okay, thank you. So I did, if someone else has a question, I was just looking over the comments.
There was a comment, somebody had asked if there would be required any removal of vegetation. The only vegetation we'd be removing is the vegetation that's kind of overgrown the bridge. It's kind of starting to impede the pedestrians from using the bridge. That would all just kind of be pruned back enough that we could work, and then, you know, and allow the bridge to be its normal size.
And so the bridge abutments, are they going to be repaired at all?
No.
They're all, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how long is this work going to take? I hate to ask that question in the city of Lowell.
That is a great question. My guess, you know, we're not under contract. There is no contractor yet for this project. So I think it could be done in 2 months. You know, what that actually takes. We have a completion date on the contract, I believe, of May 1st. They have to be completely out of there. But my thought is they'll try to do all the concrete work this season, kind of shut down for the season with, you know, a temporary asphalt over the bridge, and then come back in the spring for final paving would be how I would do it if I were the contractor. But I can't give you exacts because we don't have a contractor on board yet.
Now, has anybody looked at the remainder of the bridge that's not being repaired? Does that have a fairly good lifespan left to it, or is this sort of a temporary fix by just doing part of it?
I think it's still got a good lifespan, the rest of the bridge. The girders are in fairly decent shape. The load rating that was done on the bridge was fairly favorable for a bridge of this age. So I would, without being able to predict the future, yes, I would think there's still some good lifespan left in this bridge.
Do you expect to have materials that need to be, I know you're taking out chunks of cement and what all, those materials are going to be removed from the site, disposed of?
Mm-hmm. Yes. All the construction will be done in accordance with MassDOT standard spec. So,
do you have any stockpiling that's going to be needed on the site?
There is around the corner there by the ball fields, there's a parking lot. And we've been in talks with the DPW commissioner, Christine Clancy, about possibly using that as a laydown yard for the contractors. So yeah, I think we will be stockpiling over there, but
yeah, you won't necessarily have a lot of, you won't have any loam.
No. Nope.
Are there any other loose materials that might be stockpiled in that section?
No, I'm thinking it'll be bridge barrier and fence.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think this is long overdue. I worked in that area for, I don't know, I worked there many years ago, and that bridge has looked this way for, I can't remember how long.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
This will be a big improvement.
Oh, hope so.
Do you have any further questions or comments about the bridge work? This is a notice of intent, so we do have to ask if there's anybody from the public then that would have questions concerning this particular project. Do we have any questions from the public or comments about the Newell Street Bridge? Hearing none. If there's no further questions from the board, yes, Bill? Can't hear you.
I was just going to say, if there are no comments, I'd offer a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, motion to close the hearing, seconded
I'll
by
second that.
Brad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. So now we have to decide on the order.
So on that, I'll offer a motion to issue, to approve this project in issuing a City of Lowell order of standard conditions, or standard order of conditions, sorry about that.
Okay. Motion to issue a standard Lowell order. Do you have a second? Seconded by Weston. Do we have any further comment? We have a roll call vote, please.
Chairwoman Varnum,
Yes.
Commissioner Lovely,
Yes.
Commissioner Dillon,
Yes.
Commissioner Butenheis,
Yes.
Commissioner Downs,
Yes.
Commissioner Standish.
Yes.
Okay, the vote is unanimous. The order of conditions is going to be issued, and good luck with that bridge work. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a quick question? Is when we could get that order of conditions? Is it 14 days or something like that?
Fran?
Probably, hopefully by the end of the week, but if not, next week.
Okay. The bid opening date is August 26th, so as long as we have it as soon as possible.
It should be
Okay.
well before then.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate everyone's time.
Good night.
Take care.
Okay, we have some other business. A minor modification request at 2 Prince Avenue and 1 Markley Way. This is concerning DEP file number 206-0787. This is the Markley Group, who is in the former Prince Spaghetti building and has done a lot of work there. I think, you know, we're aware of what they've done already. They do have riverfront there, and there's a 25-foot riverfront area, land underwater, bordering land subject to flooding, and a 100-foot buffer to bank to River Meadow Brook. They are now seeking a modification to repair the wall along Hales Brook. And if we've looked at the pictures, I think we can see the very necessary work that needs to be done on this particular wall. I think part of the wall has already been repaired by this same applicant. And, you know, this, I believe, is the last section that's on their property. I see 2 people here representing. Welcome back. And would you like to speak on the work that you are proposing?
Yeah, I will. I actually have a quick PowerPoint that I can share with everyone that has the pictures that you just referred to, so we can all kind of look at them together and get on the same page. And just let me know when you can see it.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. So sure you guys all saw the memo from me. My name is John Spicer with Stantec on behalf of Markley Group. I'm here to talk about the minor modification we're requesting. I'm just going to go through the location, where it's at, what we're doing, how we're going to do it. So as you already stated, the old Prince Pasta Factory right next to the commuter rail tracks over there. Old 2018 order of conditions for construction of a new building, parking lot, and utilities. Here are those 2 pictures of the wall that you mentioned. Obviously, it's in pretty poor condition. So we're going to use a similar process that was used in 2015, which is constructing an 8x8 or approximately 8x8 wooden barge, which makes it sound a lot bigger than it is, more like a wooden platform, just so that the 2-man crew can keep any supplies that they need and capture any debris on the platform and remove it from the brook safely. And what they'll be doing is sort of stabilizing that poor condition wall with some stones so that it's not falling apart when they're trying to reaffix these blocks to the wall, which they should be able to reuse most of them, and they'll bring in new ones where they need it. That'll be done with just Portland cement and sand. Any debris, 5-gallon buckets will be used, and they'll be taken on site, which is an active construction site with full perimeter erosion controls and everything already set up. There's already dumpsters and places where they can dispose of any material that they need to. For context here, on the property, there's a gate. It's not a big gate. It's more like you know, a pedestrian gate, so the 2-man crew can most likely carry that wooden platform down into the river, which is pretty low right now, flowing pretty slow, so they can just carry it downstream or you know, float it, upstream, about 200 feet or so to where the wall is damaged. And this is just the same thing as that aerial photo, but shown on the approved site plan. From our 2018 order of conditions, with the location where they're going to access and the location where they're doing repairs. So that's pretty much it, the quick summary. And I'll stop sharing and try to answer any questions you have the best I can.
Do you expect a lot of debris that will need to be taken away? You said 5-gallon buckets. That sounds like a small amount.
Yeah, I think because what the pictures are showing, it looks like they're going to be able to reuse most of the blocks or remount them from what's there. It would be smaller stuff that they remove, And I wouldn't expect a lot from it. It's something they can take care of in hopefully a week or two. So it should be a pretty quick repair job.
Okay, when you said it was an active construction site, did you mean that you were going to put this material in dumpsters? Or
if it is deemed that it needs to be disposed of, I mean, I don't know if you want to jump in on that, Teo, but if it's trash, it'll go in dumpsters. If it's just, you know, gravel or concrete rubble, then there may be somewhere else they can use it on site.
Yeah, hi, this is Theo Kinnemans. I've been indeed before you all for the two other order of conditions and the certificate of compliance. I was in between, sandwiched in between the two notices of intent. As John said, site's still an active construction site, and we have an open order of conditions that will expire in about a year, and I'm sure we'll be back before you to get an extension on that. But yeah, if we have material that needs to be disposed of, it'll go in dumpsters. But we have plenty of area on site. As you could see, the site was pretty big. We can easily dispose or reuse material out on site.
now, when we're calling this a minor modification, it's fairly major work, but you did do a similar type of work on part of the wall already. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable that you know exactly what you need to do on this particular section of wall as well.
Correct, and the first time we did it, it was done on an emergency order or getting it fixed. The breach was a little bit worse than it is now, but you know, we want to, especially since this is dry season, we want to get in there as soon as we can and take advantage of the low water in the brook.
Right is right. Does anyone from the commission have any further questions or comments? We are still working under the open order of conditions, so this is just approving a modification if we go for that route. No further.
I think it makes sense that it's a minor mod, and that we don't need to open it back up to public hearing at all for this. So straightforward work. You guys have done it before and it needs to happen. I mean, it makes sense.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve this modification and add it to the open order of conditions?
This is Weston Standish. I'll make a motion to approve this minor modification to the order of conditions, Mass DEP number 2060745.
Second.
I'm just questioning that number.
Yeah, that's the old number that was closed out. There is a new number.
I'm sorry, it's the one that's referenced up on your document here.
Correct, and that was lit. Yeah.
A typo on my phone.
What's the new number?
Oh, just a modification and the motion of the DEP number, and then the motion was made to approve the modification. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. No further comments, so we can have a vote on that. We have a roll call, please, Fran.
Chairwoman Barnum.
Yes.
Commissioner Lovely. Sorry, I think I actually just.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Nice.
Commissioner Lovely.
Yes.
Commissioner Dillon.
Yes.
Commissioner Butenheis.
Yes.
Commissioner Downs.
Yes.
And Commissioner Standish.
Yeah.
So motion is passed unanimously, and thank you for coming in and being patient, and good luck with this particular project.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Night.
Okay, last but not least, as far as projects go, we have a request for a modification to an order of conditions at 350.4 Dutton Street, which is the new garage. The DEP number is 206-0776. And these are several somewhat minor changes to your plan. Would you want to tell us what they are, please?
Thanks, Chair Varnum. This is Chris Hayes, neighborhood planner. I'm actually here subbing in for the project manager, Joe Jinowitz, who is on family leave because he just adopted 2 boys. Basically, we're here because we identified funding that allowed us to build a portion of the canalway that'll wrap around the garage. While we were building the garage, we identified some savings, and those savings can be put forth to the walkway along the garage. It's really ideal because if we move relatively quickly on it, it'll allow the city of Lowell to take advantage of the construction crew that's already been mobilized for the garage to make these walkway improvements. But I'm mostly here just to introduce the design team, which is Justin Mosca of VHB and Chris Gradziel of Walker Associates. They can fill in the details and answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. This is Justin Mosca from VHB, as Chris mentioned, with civil engineers on the project. I was just going to share my screen quick just to sort of refresh. I know you guys, it's getting late and you probably don't want a lengthy presentation here, but just so that we're all on the same page with what was approved. Can you see what I'm presenting now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is just, again, to reorient. This is the Hamilton Canal District. So as you're coming down Dutton Street, turn into that the area where F&G projects are going on right now, or just finishing up right now, the Signature Bridge coming across Lower Pawtucket. You can see the garage parcel there. It's sort of in the whole the National Historical Park. So we're working with national parks on this as well as Central Rivers, who owns, operates the waterways. Going to what was approved previously. So what you saw in the beginning of 2018 was, you can see in black here is the buffer zone. So this is kind of the area we're looking at. Lower Pawtucket Canal is at the bottom of your screen. There's a tail race that comes between our project and the Canal Place 3 condos that are next door from an old penstock that used to come through the site. On those plans, the building is shown here in this brown color, is generally the same aside from some construction just modifications. What you see in blue is what we had previously proposed as a concrete walkway. Coming down the side, we knew we wouldn't be able to do an entire canal walk, but we were hoping that in the future there would be a canal walk in this area. So we were trying to do what we could to provide the infrastructure for that in the future. At the time, the stuff down along Lower Pawtucket Canal was not being proposed. And if I zoom in, you can see this this magenta line here was the limits of what we were proposing at the time for a retaining wall that would be on top of the tail race wall, primarily so we could get the grading to work in here without touching those walls. The walls in that area are obviously, as you know, are extremely old. And this particular one in the tail race area is a little haphazard the way the wall is constructed. It's not as nice as some of the other canals, the formal canal walls. So all the area along between the garage and Lower Pawtucket Canal was just proposed to be loam and seed previously, and we had that the walkway running down the east side. Fast forward to today, as Chris mentioned, we found the city has found some funding, and we'd like to advance sort of what we call sort of the bones of the canal walk. It's not the full canal walk experience that you might get if it was its own standalone project, but we're just trying to get in place a usable area with the funding we have. So looking back at, again, along that east side, along the tail race, the walkway is generally the same. We're extending it a little further so that we can actually incorporate what's going down to the south, which is the bigger change, and that's actually just running the canal walk, extending it along that Lower Pawtucket Canal, and then providing an entrance into the garage so that it's not a dead end. So the materials are a little different. I think we had called out when we thought this was part of the project originally, we had been calling out concrete walkways down here. Where we're working with limited funding, the material here will probably be asphalt, which could theoretically be replaced in either the near future if more funding is found, or in the what we'll call long-term temporary if it does extend. It's still a material that can hold up over time, but it's not necessarily as expensive to put down as the cement concrete walks. Similarly, in that fashion, the magenta line that you see is actually extending further down now, that wall on top of the wall. Because we're connecting to this area, we're regrading along that entire east face. It's not significant. I actually should have broken this up probably into two. The retaining wall still comes down to approximately the same length, but maybe a little further. And then it becomes a flush condition after that. Again, we're keeping the grade up so it's a level walkway. So it's above the tail race wall, but it'll actually be, the walkway will be flush to the top of the wall, as opposed to the actual retainage that's happening further up. The wall will also include both walls will include the National Parks Service standard railing that's been going on, being put in along the canal walks, in other areas of town, in the city. And then I think the other big piece of this layout is that for this grading to work and for the canal walk to work, we'll be putting a cap on the canal wall along the lower Pawtucket Canal. As I mentioned, that one is it's a better wall. It's not something we're nervous about modifying, about extending that up. So that'll be coming up about, I want to say it's about 18 inches with some granite block and cap on it. And the National Parks railing will be installed on top of that. So it's a modular block wall as you come along the east face, so that we don't have to touch this existing tail race wall. And then when we get down to lower Pawtucket, we'll be building up with granite the existing canal wall. Looking at utilities, if it switches over here, again, this was what was previously approved. There were 2 water line modifications, an 8-inch and a 16-inch water line that were crossing lower Pawtucket Canal. And we're going through the site. We had to reroute those to get them around the building. Did some investigations after we got the order of conditions, found out that those actually aren't active. So that work is actually coming out as part of this proposal. We no longer need to do that water line work. The drainage is staying fairly similar. We had shown some area drains for this grading along the east side, but now where we're kind of extending that walkway, I'll flip over to the proposed. The way the grading's working out, it actually makes sense for us to pick this up further down because we're grading down along the canal on the east side. And then everything remains fairly flat along the south and the east. So what we're proposing to do there is throw in some area drains off the walkways. And there's actually an existing pipe penetration through the tail race wall that we'd like to use because, again, we don't want to touch that wall if we can help it. It's old. It's not the best construction. So having an existing pipe available to us to connect that drainage into is what we see as the way to go to get that drainage into the canal. It's similar to what you'll see other places in the canal district where you're collecting on the surface, and almost those pipes basically act as scuppers, where they're collecting on the surface, bringing it below, and then discharging it into the canal. And then last thing I wanted to discuss was just general impervious, because you'll notice between those two layouts that we are adding some walkway area on the south side. When we did the hydrologic analysis initially, although it wasn't proposed on the layout materials plan that was approved, the hydrologic analysis actually did incorporate some impervious area back along the canal because we knew it was a possibility in the future that we'd be putting this canal walk in. We also assumed that everything along the east face would be impervious as well, which is not actually the case. There is pervious out there. So all in all, that it's fairly balanced as opposed to or in consideration with what was previously approved versus what we're proposing to do now. So there really shouldn't be any any hydrology impacts associated with what we're trying to do. There will be some lighting adjustments, probably some wall packs along the south, and then some bollard lighting along the east so that it's not impacting the Canal Place 3 condos. Those will be installed in that modular wall. And I want to say, I'm just looking through my list real quick. Yeah, I think that covers everything that we're looking for. So really, the minor modification that we're doing here, that we're requesting, is essentially some minor changes to what was proposed along the east, and then the addition of that walkway. I should jump over here so you can see the addition of this walkway along the south. All the landscape areas will continue to be loam and seed for the time being. So I think with that, we can open up to any questions you have. I'm happy to, I know I kind of ran through that quick, so I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. So this walkway, is this something you expect to be active, or is this just kind of waiting for some connections to go somewhere?
No, the intent is for it to be active. That's actually why we're doing this additional, I don't know if you can see my mouse, I think you can. Why we're doing this initial connection or additional connection into the garage is so that it's not a dead end. There will be gates at either end that can be closed off, but the walkway connection will come all the way out to the street. So what this will do is it'll allow you to, it grades down along the east, and then when you come down along the south end, you can actually get up into the garage where there's an elevator. So as long as the garage is open, then these fences will be unlocked and this can be an active area. What we don't want to do is create a dead end where, you know, people could hide out and not be accessible.
Okay. We're here for a modification of the order. I haven't heard anything that I think is of concern as far as modifying what was originally proposed. In fact, I probably like this proposal better than the original one.
It's kind of in line with the ultimate goal, which is to get a full canal walk out there, you know, extending all the way down along that lower Pawtucket Canal. Right, and if you can do it at the same time that you're doing the other work, that certainly makes sense, rather than disrupting things out there in an additional time later on.
I don't know whose jurisdiction it is, but is there any way, or maybe it's already proposed or approved, can we just make sure there's maybe a trash can out there or something? Because along these walkways, along the canals, I walk them all the time, and it bugs me how much trash finds its way into the canals, and it may be due to lack of disposal options for people. Just a thought.
Yeah, Chris, do you know whose jurisdiction that would be? Is there a DPW entity that maintains trash along the canals?
Oh, every canal is different. Every canal walk is different. We would have to see whether the problem with trash cans along the canals is just basically access for emptying them regularly. NPS does some. NPS would not be doing this. The National Park Service would not be doing this. I don't know whether we could work it into the garage contract or not. A lot of the garbage that ends up on the canals actually isn't from canal users. It's basically swept in by wind or other things from the streets into the canals and kind of floats down. So that's a problem, though.
And hi, I'm Chris Gradziel. I'm Walker, and we're the prime designer. This is obviously the VHB show, but I'll bring that up with Terry Ryan, the parking director, because I'm sure he can get some maintenance stuff written into the contract with the operator of the garage, because I'm sure that he's gonna, similar to over at Leo Roy, where, you know, mowing and taking care of the landscape around that garage is the responsibility of the operator. I'm sure he's going to do a similar thing here, but I'll confirm that.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Any other concerns? So this is a modification. If we don't have concerns, I don't see any reason not to approve the modification, and we could have a motion for that.
Make a motion to approve these minor modifications as presented tonight.
I didn't see who that was. I've still got.
Motion made by Brad. I'll second that. It's Weston.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the modification on the Dutton Street garage. All those in favor, let's have a roll call because I can't see everybody right now anymore.
Chairwoman Varnum,
Yes.
Commissioner Lovely,
Yes.
Commissioner Dillon,
Yes.
Commissioner Butenheis,
Yes.
Commissioner Downs,
Yes.
Commissioner Standish.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously, and that modification will be added to the current order of conditions. Thank you, everyone, for your patience tonight. It's a long meeting, and thank you for coming in and explaining your project to us.
No, thank you for hearing us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we do have some minutes from our last meeting, July 8th. We have a motion on the minutes.
I make one small comment beforehand on the minutes. Fran, I don't know if you can see them.
I don't have them on hand right now.
I can send you, I mean, I'll approve them, but I think there's a comment that you had from, or it was listed as Mr. Delania, but I think I was the one that made the comment. It's on page 9. It says, where it says, it looks like they are tripling the amount of pavement, but they are improving the infiltration with enhanced structures. Because the next comment from Mr. Delania said, that is correct. They felt they want to ensure an almost zero impact for the expansion of the parking area. I think that was a response to my comment.
Got it.
But that's at the top of page 9, and it's just it's me that made that comment.
Okay.
But everything else looks consistent with my little cheat sheet notes.
We rely on you, Bill.
Don't do that, but it takes a village, guys.
Yeah, so we can make those changes, but if everything else looks good.
Okay, motion to approve with the change that Bill just mentioned.
Without the
made that motion, Kevin, and seconded by seconded by Brad. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you. I'm not sure I like these summer once-a-month meetings just because they're so long. Thank you for lasting till the end, all of you.
It still wasn't bad, Louisa. I mean, 2 hours for all the things we went over.
Yeah.
I'll take a 2-hour meeting and only doing it once a month during a summer month than twice a month.
I wasn't able to make the earlier one, or what was it, the later one last month. So I would have just gotten a half-length meeting tonight.
I thought it was pretty efficient. Honestly, I think we got through a lot. The planning board summer meeting was over 4 hours long, so this was better.
That's for sure. Okay, well, thanks for lasting till the end. Thank you, Frank, for Fran. I'm so sorry I didn't thank Frank for taking care of all the details.
Good work, Louisa. Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good
everyone.
night.
See you guys.
August. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Night.